The United States is gearing up for war in the Middle East, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that this is what Americans need at this moment. You see, many households, they're struggling at this moment. They're struggling with the cost of living. We've got people on fixed income like Social Security, SSI, SSDI, all saying that the COLA increase for 2024 just wasn't enough. And we also have households that say that, wages just can't keep up with inflation, and that it doesn't matter if they're buying their needs at Costco, Walmart, Target, or any other retailer for that matter. The simple fact is that things have become just way too expensive. Not to mention the fact that we're also involved in multiple conflicts between the Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Hamas, and we're also under constant threats from the likes of Iran and China. It has our country spread out way too thin, and it's showing in the Red Sea. So today, I'm going to be discussing the possible impacts that all of this can have on each and every one of us.
1 in 5 commercial ships avoiding the area. Now, some might say it doesn't sound that dramatic, 1 in 5. Is it?
Well, yes, it's hugely dramatic. To put it in context, there's about 4.5 million 20-foot containers equivalent going back and forth through the Suez Canal. And daily, this is changing. There's a couple of days of quiet and they start getting routed through the Suez Canal again. And then there's a rocket or an attack, and ships are either being told to stop and wait, or they're being sent back to go and circumvent all of Africa, which takes an extra couple of weeks. So this is a huge issue for world trade, and vast numbers of goods which are being delayed and rerouted, day to day.
Sure. So there was a big attack over the weekend on a Maersk ship, which Houthi rebels from Yemen tried to board, and it also provoked or brought about, I would say, probably the most dramatic response so far. The US Navy defended the vessel, sank the boats of the attackers. Is there a chance that that dramatic response itself could stem these attacks?
I think not immediately. In fact, Maersk had just suspended sailings through the Red Sea, and then they just reinstated that. And then this attack happened, and so they've suspended them again. And I'm sure they'll be cautious before rerouting it. So, of course, people are watching the news and the response of the American-led coalition. But it won't take, it won't take just one counterattack to make the carriers feel confident.
This debunks the notion that these attacks in the Red Sea don't affect us at all. I mean, you guys can clearly see that a lot of shipments are being delayed. However, it doesn't mean that when they actually reach our ports, they'll be cheaper. It's actually the opposite, since these ships are now adding weeks upon weeks to their journey, which in turn uses up more energy and more fuel. Now, it doesn't take an expert to figure out that these costs are going to be passed on to consumers. So, of course, that's you and me. And at this point, do you think that seniors, people on fixed income like Social Security, SSI, and SSDI, do you think that these folks could actually afford prices to go even higher? Now, if you ask me, a lot of them probably couldn't. And this is a huge concern for millions of Americans, even though they're not directly involved in these conflicts. But what about our lawmakers? What are they saying? Well, you got Senator Lindsey Graham saying that instead of Houthis, we should probably target Iran.
We are now at, 103 attacks on our troops in Iraq and Syria. Yeah. And then 21 international vessels have also been attacked by the Houthis in the Red Sea. How did we get to these numbers?
Weakness. We're fighting the Houthis. We beat the Germans and the Japanese. We should be able to beat the Houthis. Secretary Austin and the Biden administration's failing our troops in the field. I admire him. He's a patriot, but he's not doing a good job protecting the soldiers. I asked him a couple of months ago, Joey, what you were talking about. Is there a red line? Would you tell our enemies publicly that if you kill an American, we're coming after you? Without Iran, there are no Houthis. The Houthis are completely backed by Iran. I've been saying for 6 months now, hit Iran. They have oil fields out in the open. They have the Revolutionary Guard headquarters you can see from space. Blow it off the map. If you really want to protect American soldiers.
Well, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think it would be wise for the United States to get into a conflict in the Middle East? Some officials who have hidden their identities say that the Biden administration seems to be gearing up for war. 4 officials who are familiar with the matter have said that internal conversations have discussed the possibility of another Middle East war that does include the United States. Now, Right now, as we speak, the U.S. military is supposedly drawing up plans to hit back at the Iran-backed Houthis, which could potentially bring in parts of Yemen. And we're also seeing confrontations within the countries of Lebanon, Iraq, and of course, Iran. Which begs the question, has all of this now gone beyond what the United States can control? Has the war escalated to a point where we need to send in American troops, even though we came into this thing thinking that we would be involved in less conflicts? But of course, not everything goes our way. Come to think of it, a lot of things have been going wrong just the past few years, but let's focus on now. Just recently, the U.S. threatened Yemen about the Houthis, saying that if these attacks in the Red Sea don't stop, there's going to be consequences.
The US could soon begin targeting missile sites in Yemen in a bid to counter attacks by Houthi rebels in the Red Sea. Yesterday, Australia joined 11 other countries in joining a multinational force which issued a warning to the group calling for an end to their illegal attacks, prefacing there will be consequences if they continue targeting cargo ships. The leader of the Houthis says they will strike US warships if Washington chooses to attack Yemen. The conflict in the Red Sea is part of a wider escalation in hostilities between Israel and Hamas, as Lebanon and Iran both issue threats of retaliation after recent airstrikes in their territories.
Now, I'm not sure what Washington means by consequences, but I'm guessing it's probably connected to what I discussed just a second ago, where the U.S. will probably target Houthis that are located inside of Yemen itself. Which then raises the question, well, what happens next? I mean, that's a pretty fair question, right? With our Army, Navy, and Air Force not necessarily reaching its recruitment goals for 2023, it's kind of a worrying situation to think about, that we're possibly getting pulled into yet another war, one that may require American boots on the ground.
Military faces a recruiting crisis, with 3 of the 5 branches failing to meet their manpower goals this year. Big bonuses, loosened enlistment requirements, and new advertising slogans did not push the services out of their slumps, and lawmakers want answers. Mike Gooding has the latest.
I believe ending the military recruiting crisis should be our top priority. I don't know how we can expect to have a military if we can't solve this recruiting issue.
The U.S. military is going through one of its worst recruiting stretches since the all-volunteer force began in 1973. The Army missed its recruiting goal by 15,000 soldiers, or 25%, and the Air Force, and the Navy all expect to miss their goals in 2023. Only the Marine Corps and Space Force met their recruitment goals.
It's also no secret that many young Americans are hesitant to sign up, knowing that we're almost always just inches away from a full-blown world war, which now also raises another question. Do Americans feel safe under the conditions that we're in right now? Because we have to consider just how we feel at home as well, Some say that the right moves have been made so as not to open up this can of worms. Meanwhile, others say that we've let ourselves into a very vulnerable state, especially through our borders, as critics of the administration have said that potential terrorists continue to pour in. So this means that the U.S. is theoretically at risk of an attack from both outside and inside the country. But I want to ask you guys, because I trust that almost all of you have an objective eye. Do you think that we are prepared to go to war with the likes of Iran? And do you feel safe right now, right here in our country? I'm looking forward to hearing you guys' responses. And before I go, I just want to thank you guys for keeping yourselves informed. Keep safe, and I'll catch you on the next one.